So here's what we're going to do now. We're going to move on to the alumni part of the evening. So everyone you're going to hear from tonight is actually either a member or a former member. In fact, everybody's a former member that's trained with us. And what they're going to do is they're going to talk at a different part of our speaker method. And they're going to talk about their experience of that particular part, or the whole thing if you're Susan Madison, who wants to talk about everything. You know, one little area isn't enough. She wants to encompass everything. So this is our method. This is what we teach. This is what we train out that speakers must have in their repertoire that allows them to get out there and move from being a beginner to an authority to an influencer. Whether you want to be a micro-influencer, whether you want to be a multi-global influencer, it's really up to you. But these are the 6 components. I know the advert said 5, but you get a bonus. But you only get the bonus when you show up, you see. Clever marketing, clever marketing. So I don't believe that was on there. So you get to learn about building profile. So the first one's going to be all about confidence. And we're going to hear from Kelly, who's going to talk all about the confident aspect of our speaker method. So let's hear it for Kelly.
Have you ever felt so far out of your comfort zone that you actually feel sick and excited in equal measure? Back in 2017, I attended the first ever Festival of Doers. It was run by the Driven Women Network, and it was this room of 200 people, and I was there in the audience, and all these inspirational female speakers were coming to the stage and just blowing me away. I'd never been to anything like that in my life. And towards the end of the day, Misa Mink, who runs the whole thing, she handed all of us in the audience these blank postcards. And we were invited to write something that we wanted to do between now, or we wanted to achieve in 12 months' time. I had my blank card, and I found my pen. It seemed to have kind of a life of its own. And I started writing to stand on stage and be on stage at something like the Festival of Doers and be inspiring women. And then she handed out envelopes, and we had to address them to ourselves and put them in the envelope and hand them in. And then she told us, in 10 months' time, this is going to be sent back to you. And I thought to myself, why did I write that? Because I was just, the idea of actually being on stage and doing that was just completely like nothing that I would ever do. I don't even know why I wrote that. And it had gotten to the point, I mean, I used to be quite confident when I was a teenager speaking, but I had gotten to the point that not only would this have completely freaked me out, but even in small groups, if I just had to speak and I was waiting for my turn, and it could even be like 4 people, I couldn't think until it was my turn. I couldn't concentrate on what anybody else was saying. And if it got to be my turn, I would just say what I needed to say really quickly and kind of get out of there. And so in 10 months' time, that postcard came back. And I opened it up and I read it, and I actually felt really disappointed in myself, because I thought to myself, when I wrote that, I thought to myself, I'll get some kind of speaker training or something, but I hadn't done it. 2 weeks after that, and I'm not kidding you, I got an email from Misa Mink of the Driven Women Network asking me if I would be a speaker at the next Festival of Doers, which was in 3 months' time. That was my kind of sick, no, that was just my sick moment. I wasn't sick and excited, I was just sick. And I wrote her an email that said, thank you so much for asking me. And please ask me again next year, because next year I'll be ready. I'm just not ready. And I was about to press send, and suddenly I heard this voice in my head that said, Kelly, you are being an absolute hypocrite. You're a coach and you're always telling your clients to step outside of their comfort zone, and look at you. And the voice also told me that in 1 year's time I was going to be no readier than I was then. So I deleted what I'd written and I changed it to a yes, and I pressed send, and that was my sick, I'm going to go and vomit in the corner moment. And I realized that I had 3 months to try to figure out how in the hell I was going to be standing up in front of 200 people and speaking without making a complete fool out of myself, or without having Misa Mink wonder why in the hell she asked me in the first place. I think about it now when I heard about Speaker Express training and how much I debated about it. It's really funny. Like, I thought to myself, I don't know if I want to spend that much money on something that's just for one event. And I also thought to myself, is it really going to get me ready in 3 months' time to do something like this? But I really had no other choice, so I bit the bullet and I did it. And what ended up happening in those 3 months was not only learning how to have confidence, But it was a personal development program. It was like something that got me completely out of my shell and it helped me in so many ways beyond the event. The event itself was fantastic. I stood there on stage in front of these 200 people and I felt alive and I felt so energized by the audience, and I got to pull out all kinds of tricks I'd learned during my Speaker Express training. For example, the fire alarm went off when I was mid-sentence, and we'd done a training day on what to do when the unexpected happens. And I was like, I know what to do. And it was just like, stay cool, you know? And another time, an audience member asked me a question, and it actually triggered me, and it made me feel quite emotional. And I was able to recover from it and keep my emotion and not try to cover it up, because we'd done some training on vulnerability and we'd come to terms with what to do about that kind of thing. And it helped me connect with the audience so much. And in the end, when I got off the stage, there was actually a queue of women waiting to come and give me a hug and talk to me and to buy my book, which had just come out the day before. So I want to say to you 3 confidence tricks that really, really helped me so much. Number 1 is speak from your heart. So lose the scripts. This was me. I always used to think I had to memorize what I was going to say. Just speak from your heart, and then your authentic self will come through. Number 2 is practice, practice, practice. And I know that kind of sounds a little bit like contradictory to the first thing, but it's just video yourself saying what you want to say and just do it over and over again and time yourself and kind of just see how that feels, that you're in the right amount of time that you've been given. And number 3 is don't be afraid to go out there and talk to people about what you do, because I never used to tell people about my job and what I did. I just felt really uncomfortable about that. And one of the exercises that we had to do was go out on the street one day and talk to people on the street about what we did. And I hated that. I did not want to do that. I was the last one out the room with my coat going, I don't want to do this. And I hated doing it. And even the next day I was like, I hated that. But something happened. It broke me out of whatever it was, and it got me out of it. So I just want to invite all of you guys today to think about something that maybe 12 months from now would make you kind of feel sick and excited in equal measure and take you out of your comfort zone, and to share that perhaps with somebody else. And don't be afraid to do it, because it might just be the best thing that ever happened to you. Thank you.
Wasn't she great?
Yeah.
Let's hear it for Kelly. Awesome. And this is someone, and you started just by doing 1 minute. That was your first thing. She just stood up for 1 minute and talked about how to deal with nerves, ironically.
I don't know if I did. I don't even remember what I said. It was just a complete blur. I don't even remember what I said.
Yeah, and then slowly, so it's look, I think a lot of us can be addicted to the whole, it'll happen overnight, it'll be really quick, but it doesn't happen that way, and it takes time and effort and dedication. And well done. Seeing you up here, you look brilliant, and you look good as well. So let's hear it again for Kelly. So the next one is brand message. By the way, who here could relate to Kelly? Who's had that sick moment, but not on a Friday night? You know, where you're so excited, but it's so unnerving. And you know, the only way is to push through and persevere and actually keep going at it. And also, here's the other thing I want you to think about. When Kelly talked about possibly not sending that email, you know, where else are we leaving opportunities on the table? The opportunity to impact, the opportunity to make more money, the opportunity to get in front of the right audience, because we let our nerves, our fears get in the way. So just have a little think about that. Brand message. What I want you to do now is turn to do in the rows of 3. And I just want you to talk about how public speaking can help you get your brand message out there. And why is it part of the speaker method, you think? So if there's 3 of you in a row, do a 3. Ready? Just take 3 minutes to do it. Your time starts now. Go. Good. So let's hear from you. How does public speaking help you get your brand message? Let's hear from the back. The front are very active. Let's hear from the back. Who would like to share? How does public speaking help get your brand message out?
You just have longer to convey your message in public speaking than you do in an elevator pitch. And
Right.
people can feel your energy as well.
Absolutely, very true. So people get a feel for you. You have the time. Yes, they get a feel for your voice and what you stand for.
Yeah, we were just in the same group, so yes.
Oh, because you're the same group.
Yeah.
What about over here? Kerry. That's what happens when you know someone's name, right? You just pick on it. So how can it help get your brand message out there?
got to stand up and talk in front of people first, haven't you?
Yes?
Yeah. Yeah, just, I guess, yeah, sell your story and what you're about.
Tell your story, what you're about. Yes?
I was saying, literally, was saying he might speak about different things. So I think whatever you're doing or whatever you're speaking about, you're actually getting your personal brand out there.
Correct.
And your brand will actually be mirrored in whatever you're talking about. So actually, it will affect those things as well. So it's kind of really it's an important part, I think.
It's an integral part.
Integral. I wasn't
Absolutely.
saying that.
You can say that, right? Okay, front people, what are you going to jump in? What are you going to add to that? So it's about the feel, it's about the voice, it's about the subject, it's about what you stand for. What else? Why is it part of the speaker method? Why is it an integral part of you being a public speaker?
Educating?
It's educating your audience.
Yeah, so you might not be purposely pushing your brand, but by educating, you're helping people, and they attach that knowledge to your brand.
Creating awareness.
Creating awareness, educating, absolutely. What else? If we think about, let's look at two very different, distinguished people. Let's take, you mentioned him, Gary Vee. What's his brand message? What's he known for? Whether you agree with it or not. He swears a lot. So he's known for swearing. What else? No bullshit. Was that?
Awareness and dirt and cloud is his message.
Yep. And what was the big thing he was always going on about? Hustle. Got to hustle, 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 hustle. Which he's now changing, but hustle, 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 right? Let's take Branson, right? Richard Branson, what's his brand message? See if you can, what do you associate to the brand message? You associate the company.
Innovation.
Yeah, innovation. Sorry?
Music as well.
Music.
Very involved in music.
Of course, he's very pioneer at the time. Yeah, what else? Huh? Doing things differently, customer experience centric. Adventurous. Right. So if either of those stood behind closed doors in rooms and never opened their mouth and never shared their knowledge and never got out there, would we know what they stood for? So that's why it's an integral part. Your brand message is helped by public speaking. As a company, as a business, what you stand for, what you want to educate your audiences, what you want them to know. But also remember, who do people buy from? People. Who has more followers, Virgin or Richard Branson? Richard Branson. Who has more followers, Elon Musk or Tesla? Why? People buy from people. Yeah, exactly. So please remember that when it comes down to your brand message and public speaking and how that can help accelerate that. The next one I want to introduce is your signature talk. Now, when I introduce him, he's a very short gentleman. You won't be able, so please make sure you're able to see him because he doesn't stand out from the crowd at all, right? He came to us a while ago, this really quiet, and this is true, he's actually very tall, hence the joke. He came to us very quiet, very shy, but he just got that by standing up in front of people, that will help accelerate the growth of his business. And he's going to tell you the rest. So let's welcome James Patterson. See what I mean?
Hello, everyone. So my name is James Patterson. I'm going to talk to you about signature talks. I'm going to talk specifically about mine, which hopefully you'll be able to relate to. I also want to talk about when you've got your signature talk created or you've improved your signature talk, how you can use that to accelerate or improve your business. Now, a brief bit about my background is that I spent 10 years in investment banking and asset management between Sydney and London. It afforded me a lovely lifestyle. I was able to party and I was able to travel, but I didn't love the work I was doing. I was quite bored by it. And so over those 10 years, I quit 4 different jobs to start 4 different businesses. The first 3 businesses failed. The first business failed within 3 months of launching. So it was a great start. But each time I would learn from each business and it would last a bit longer. And then I'd go back to work, I'd get more capital and I'd launch my next startup business. And so I did that over a period of 10 years. And by my 4th business, that was quite successful. And I was also then working with startups, helping them to start their business and also helping them get equity investment through angel investors. And that's what I love doing. I love working with people to help them start their own business. and then help them grow that business by pitching to angels for equity investment. And so my fifth business, which is my most recent business, the one I've been running for the last 5 years, was doing exactly that. So over the last 5 years, me and my team have provided funding and support to over 3,000 startups across the UK with £40 million worth of funding. Now that's just a very brief background about me, but actually what I just told you forms the backbone of my signature talk. Now, my signature talk can last between 30 seconds up to 30 minutes. And the way I've structured it is that it is my personal story. As Elliot was saying, people are going to buy into you. They're going to buy into hopefully me, because if they buy into me, if they enjoy what I'm talking about, if they believe what I'm talking about, if that relates to them, then hopefully they will listen to the services that I have to offer. And it's a lot more powerful. And so I'm not sure about the audience, but I get a quick show in the audience of hands who is actually running their business currently, who's running their own. Okay, wow, pretty much, okay, everyone's in the right place, that's good to know. So in terms of signature talk, if you don't know what it is, very simply, your signature is unique to you. So your signature talk is your unique talk. It's going to be individual because it's going to be your story. Everyone has something to offer. Now, a lot of people, when they first start, they might think, no one wants to hear about me, I'm not interesting, I haven't done anything, but actually everyone has something interesting to tell. They just don't realize it. And so if you structure your signature talk around your story, you're going to find that when you're speaking to audiences about your business, you're going to get such better results. Now, yes, people want to know about your business, how it can solve their problems, but what they really want to know about is you. So if you can get over yourself and you can come out there and tell your authentic story, there's two words I want to use. I think one was mentioned earlier, authenticity and vulnerability. And these are key when you're creating your signature talk and when you're telling your story. So when I first started telling my story, I would come out and I didn't want to talk about my failures. And now when I have my longer talk, I will talk a lot about the stories about how I failed, because people in the audience, if you're running businesses, you know probably a lot about failure, whether it's a business that's failed or little things that you've had along the way that's been challenges. And so what this is, a lot of you are probably familiar with the term, it's the hero's journey. And so you're talking about how you started here, and as Elliot said, I was a shy, short, wasn't short at the time, but I was a shy, tall person. And then I would tell how I came across adversity, and there was this challenge here, and I had setbacks, and then I was getting through these challenges to the point where I came out triumphant. And that's the story that I tell. Now, depending on over the years where I am in my journey in life will depend how triumphant I am at the time, but it's always talking about those your challenges. And so when you're talking about your story, audiences I find are a lot more savvy than they were 5-10 years ago. Audiences don't want to hear the person who gets up and they tell the story about the perfect life, the perfect wife, and the perfect abs, because we all know that that's BS, that there's just no such thing as someone coming out and having that perfect life. And so audiences will pick up if you're not authentic with the story that you tell. Also, because you're going to be telling your story over different time frames to different audiences, different structures, different formats, video, live, if you start making things up about your journey, about your life, people are going to pick up on that because they're going to see the inconsistencies. So I talk about authenticity when you're creating your signature talk, when you're telling your story. I also talk about vulnerability. Vulnerability, I guess for some people, vulnerability may be getting up here and actually talking to a bunch of people like you. For me, that was something that was very vulnerable when I started. When I first started speaking, I would literally mind blank, sweating, palpitations. I just couldn't handle it. But over practicing with these amazing people here, it got to the point where I enjoy it and I feel confident. I love it. So with vulnerability, again, I would go back and not talking about my failures, but then when I started talking about my failures, I would talk about, for example, my second business was a fashion magazine business, and a friend of mine had run a fashion magazine in Bristol. And the reason I started this business is because my friend who had started the fashion magazine in Bristol said, it's awesome, you get invited to all the cool parties and you get to hang out with models. And I'm like, fantastic, I'm starting a fashion magazine business in Sydney. And so I very quickly realized that that wasn't actually the key to having a successful business. I didn't care about fashion. I didn't care about publishing. I was doing it for the lifestyle, which was the wrong reason. Now, that's a very short version of the story, but by telling that story and many other stories of my challenges along the way, people can learn from that and go, oh, okay, well, I'm not going to start a business for that reason, or maybe I won't do that. So it's a way that you can teach. So that's what I try to do. I try to have vulnerability. I encourage you guys to do that in your stories as well. And what you'll find is the best signature talks that you'll see The best speakers you'll see, they won't have any PowerPoint slides. They won't go through point by point about the benefits and the functionalities of the business. They won't even talk about the points on how they can solve your problems. Well, what they will do is get up for 30 minutes and they'll tell you funny stories about themselves. They'll tell you stories about how they helped their clients, how their clients had challenges. And what you'll find is you go after 30 minutes going, well, they were awesome. They were just telling me stories. They were showing me their vulnerability. They were showing me they're human. I learned lessons along the way, but they didn't tell me about their business. But what they have done is when they've been telling you those stories, whether it's about themselves or about their clients, they've been putting in little bits about, okay, this is my business. This is how my business relates to you. This client is maybe similar to what you do in business, and you can relate to how that client, and maybe this other story differs, and that's someone with your business, maybe that's, you can relate to that. And so by having the stories about themselves and having the stories about the clients, through that, they're getting across a lot stronger message. So that's the main points I want to get across about signature talks. I am in a position at the moment where I am looking for my next challenge in life, for my next business. If you'd like to connect with me, my name's James Patterson. You can get me on LinkedIn or Facebook. And I hope that that gives you just an idea around how to create a signature talk, how to get your talk in a way that brings across your authentic self, brings across your vulnerability. And I encourage you to do both of those, because the more you do that, the more you push yourself, the better you'll get out there, the better your audiences relate to you, which actually affects your business in that the better that they're more likely to believe in you, trust in you, and then hopefully buy what you're selling. Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you. I would hug you, but I'm German. We're not that huggy.
Thank you.
Actually, I always make fun of Germans. Yes, how many more Germans do we have in the room? One. That's it. Oh. Tell all other German friends to come to Speak Express, because I like being German now. So, but I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to tell you a little bit about getting booked. Now, I'm Monique, and I was the one for the first 2 years of running Speak Express. I would actually hide behind Elliot because he had 6,000 hours of experience, and I would always say, I'm the organizer, I need to straighten the chairs, I'm busy, I cannot speak. And I was really busy, I was telling myself. And I had no confidence, I had no brand message, nor did I have a signature talk. But then Elliot at some point gave me a kick up the ass, not physically, but verbally. And, was shouting at me saying, Anik, this is your business. You better step up, because that's ridiculous. And it was. And especially, being someone running a speaking business for 2 years, not speaking. And you can imagine that it actually triggered my imposter syndrome even further. And what I then did, now how many of you, when it comes to getting gigs, let's have some quick shout outs, what you think is crucial to getting a speaking gig?
Connections.
Connections?
Yeah.
Yeah, what else?
Saying yes.
Saying yes to?
Pretty much anything to start with.
Okay, yeah.
Being open to it rather than...
Yes, putting yourself out there, yes. What else? Showreel? Okay, yeah. What else?
Getting people to understand your message.
Yes, being okay and communicating your brand message. Tell you what, the most crucial and the most important bit is standing in front of the mirror, look yourself in the eye and tell yourself it will be okay. If I screw this up, I will live. And guys, I tell you, I have screwed up big time. And one of the first gigs I ever got was because I was desperate. I was like, okay, where can I do this? I hate it. I'm scared. I don't think I'm very good. And then I realized there are loads of local libraries. And I found someone at City Library and someone connected me. And then I was running a workshop there. Now, I have no idea what I did. I don't know how many people were there. I don't think it actually really helped the brand a lot. But after that, I could sit down with Elliot and say, this went wrong, this went wrong, this went wrong. And I started to build a signature talk. Because I know a lot of people sometimes think, once I have my signature talk, I get out and speak. But no, just be really bad. Find small audiences. Give yourself permission to screw up. This is the biggest gift you can ever give yourself. And 2 more things I want to say. I got my first ever corporate client from speaking at a UNICEF event somewhere. I think it must have been in Islington. There weren't a lot of people there, and I only did a minute. It was kind of like a speaking competition for charity. I placed second. I won a bar of organic chocolate. And I also landed my first client, who was from the Bank of New York. So, you know, don't get too snobby thinking, oh, you know, there are only 3 people there, I won't speak. You don't know who's in the audience. You know, it could be the biggest thing ever. And obviously, you know, like the more busy you get, yes, you can have certain requirements to say, you know, I only speak if there are at least 30 people in the audience. But when you start, just take anything. And the last tip, because that frustrates me so much, we get a lot of emails as well, you know, people offering to speak, and they would email me something like, sometimes not even saying, hello, Anik. They would say, I'm the PA to, you know, whoever, I can't even think of a name, Elliot. Let's pick his. And, you know, like my client speaks on, and honestly, like as soon as I don't get your PA to sell your brand, like, yes, if you're Oprah, I'd love an email from her PA. But if you're not yet, do it yourself. Build those relationships. It will go such a long way. And don't ask people, because I fear this is what often people do wrong. Don't say, you know, I speak on relationships, can I speak at your event? You know, it's kind of like assuming. But ask them, what are your requirements to get on your stage? That will get you so much further because you throw the ball back into their court, right? And they have control over that relationship, and they also feel respected. So, so important. And someone mentioned footage. I can't remember who it was. I swear I never had any footage, nor did I have a speaker sheet when I started. But the more you want to demand in terms of, hey, you know, I speak, that's £2,000, the better you have to be with all the business things as well, your speaker reel, your footage, and that kind of stuff. And, you know, most importantly, check in at the Speaker Express group on Facebook, because, you know, if you're at a level where you're kind of like, ugh, I don't know where to start, there's a list of storytelling platforms like, who can I name? Inspired. They run their events once a month. In Mayfair, there's Moth, there's Spark Storytelling. There are a number of different storytelling platforms. There's an entire post. If you go in the Speaker Express group and you just Google or search for a resource, it will be there. But most importantly, remember what I said at the beginning. Honestly, when you go home tonight, just put a Post-it on the mirror, and it's like, I will be okay to fail. You know, I will live. Even if I screw up and everyone laughs at me, the sun will rise the very next day. And trust me, this is how you get started attracting better bookings. And trust me, at some point, you might even pick up the phone, call Anik, and you will ask me, Anik, what do I charge for a gig I thought I was doing for free? Because that will, you know, with time and with experience, that will happen. So thank you very much.
So, a couple of things. So I'm running an event next year called the Thriving Entrepreneur Conference, and I had an application process. And you really learn about someone's approach by how someone even fills out a form. The form stood out because this guy was like, I asked several questions on it. One of them is, how big's your social media following? Because also these days, as an event organizers, for those who put events or for those who are going to share, it's not just who's a good speaker, it's who can bring an audience. You know, that's another thing. If you want to get booked, you want to be able to provide an audience to the people putting on the event. So I said, how big's your social media following? He wrote, let's not get into how big this is and how big that is. I was like, okay, I'm not quite sure I like this guy. Then at the bottom, he's like, my normal fee is XYZ, but I'm willing to waive that to speak on your stage. I was like, no, thank you. Right? So please be aware that as good as you are as speakers, if not someone doesn't know you, how you come across matters. It completely dented his brand. It doesn't matter who he is. He could be the world's best speaker. And he did have a massive social media following, but I had zero interest in building rapport with him. So please keep that in mind about getting booked. Because here's the thing, and it leads perfectly onto the next part. Please understand that whenever you stand up and you speak, you are selling. You are either selling yourself, your brand, both, but you're selling. Who here has issues around sales? Please put them nice and high. Thank you. Really, that many? I've got 3 words for you. Are you ready? Yeah. Are you ready for them? Yeah. They're going to change your lives. Are you sure? Yeah. Are you ready? Yes. Get over it. Got it? Yes.
That's the wine now.
Right. Seriously. By the way, this is a much fun aside. Okay? You guys are really like kidding, right? But seriously, please understand, right? Tonight's all about the speaker method. It's all about how you monetize your speaking. How do you get out there, make impact? Your confidence allows you to deliver. Your brand message is what people will take away and remember you by, right? Your signature talk is your tool to deliver. Getting booked is, of course, how you get the gigs and how to get booked. But the moment you stand up here, you are selling. So it's important that how you sell is important. There's a theme tonight: authenticity, vulnerability, being real. The other thing I want to add to what you said, I'll never forget this. Once I did a talk at Google Campus in front of an incredible technical crowd, right? Every time I stated a fact, their heads went down. And they were like, and then they would get their attention again. And I was like, so-and-so said. It was the most unnerving presentation ever. They just Googled everything I said. God knows if I'd had misplaced a fact. Because the skepticism, the people checking you out, the James, like people are much more savvy. If you're not real and authentic, you got to understand that even though that day I didn't actually sell anything, I was promoting my brand, I was promoting myself. So it's important as part of the speaker method and generally when you stand up and speak, that whatever issues you have around selling, you need to get over that, right? And if you're about educating and impacting and changing lives, great. Then it's your duty to learn to sell, but sell authentically. Sell what's real to you in a way that's powerful, in a way that resonates with you. Find your way of doing that in a way that's real to you. Because if you're inauthentic, if you've learned that you need to sell like this, here's my offer, today it's £10,000, and you get this, and this, and this, and this, but you can have it for £97 today, especially for you guys, because I never do this again, right? But that's not real to you. It's fine if it's real to you. I'm not dissing that methodology. But if that's not authentic to who you are as a person, the audience will read that. You'll be uncomfortable delivering it, and the audience will be uncomfortable hearing it. Is that a win-win? Yes? Yes. It is a win-win? No. Right. He's going, yes. I'm uncomfortable. They're uncomfortable. Yes, it's a win-win. I hate to see you on a night out having fun. This is no. We're all having fun here. This is bad. But yes. So that's what I mean. So when you're talking about the pitching and selling, it's about finding your authentic delivery. It's finding your authenticity in your ability to sell what you believe in and what you stand for. Whether that would be, whether you're a car manufacturer and you're promoting the new Tesla, or whether you're Oprah and you're selling yourself as a brand and you want people to buy into you, it's finding your way of pitching it. It's finding your way of selling it. Sure, techniques work. They work. They've been proven to work again and again. However, if it's inauthentic to you, the audience will see it. Right? And that's when it becomes awkward. That's when sales is hard, because if you do it properly, the audience, you won't need to sell. The audience will want to buy. And if you do your presentation properly and you add value, and of course you tell people it's coming, and you tell people there's another level, and you tell people what's going to happen, people don't mind. What people really mind is when it comes out of nowhere. And you suddenly go, here's a great presentation, and suddenly you change to this militant, and now I'm going to sell. You will buy from me, because if you don't buy from me, you will never succeed. You will be a loser for the rest of your life. Who's with me? Right? And people do. You can see the energy shift into that kind of, oh, I'm selling now, versus it's a natural part of your talk. And the moment you open your mouth, you're selling. Please understand that. So it shouldn't even feel separate. It should beautifully weave into it. And now I'm going to tell you how we move forwards together. Is that okay? Yes or no? Great. Here's how we do it. Later on, we're going to tell you how to move forwards with us. That's all part of the process. I hope you don't mind. Do you mind? Good. There's no no's. So that's the important part. So please understand the next part of the speaking method is learning how to sell. It's important. to sell in a way that's authentic to you and real to you. And please understand that whenever you're standing up here, you're selling yourself, you're selling your brand, you're selling your company. Got that? Yes. Cool. Now we're going to move to the last part. And that's all about building a profile. And for that, we have a very special young lady. So Beatrix joined us a while ago, and then she took a break, and then she came back, and now she's taken over the sleep world. So who here has problems sleeping? Really? Only 3 of 4 of you going to admit to that? The rest of you sleep like babies? Great. Well done. Maybe you can come do some work with my toddler, because she doesn't. She doesn't even sleep like a baby. She just doesn't sleep. Great. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Beatrix.
Hi everyone, my name is Beatrix. What we're going to do is I'm going to turn it over to you. Now that you heard all the different things that Speakers Express are training us and new members as well, we're going to pause a moment and take a couple of seconds to talk about you and to think about you. So who do you want to be? And we're thinking about speaker. What kind of speaker do you want to be? And let's look at the next 6 to 12 months. Do you want to speak in front of 50 people? 100 people? Maybe 1,000 people? Or maybe even more, let's say 5,000 people? Do you want to speak in front of corporate clients? Or do you want to speak on big stages? And how do you want people to feel after they heard you speak? So these are the things that I focused on in the last 6 to 12 months of my speaker business and building a profile as well. Because not everybody might be experiencing sleep problems, but I wanted them to remember me, because when they do, I wanted them to really be able to think of me and come to me when they need me. So we talked about the message, getting the message right. We talked about getting booked. We talked about people remembering you when they need you or they might be able to use your services. And this is what building profile is for me. And that's how it helped me to get to where I am today. So, no, other way? Yeah. So let's talk about the 2 separate parts of building a profile that I experienced in my speaker business. And I'm sure you're going to relate to this as well. So the first one, which Elliot started talking about, is offline. So some of you, when you came in, I was the person who greeted you with a smile and welcomed you. So think about building a profile in a different way. And again, building relationships was mentioned before. It starts with a smile. It starts with a hello. It starts with the powerful brand message and introducing yourself. But it starts with all those different things and then follows up with actually giving the person a ring or sending them an email, or just like James mentioned, linking up with him on LinkedIn. So people actually start getting to know you. And you might not have a big profile yet, but that's how it started for me. So a friend invited me to an event last year in November. And basically what happened is he already knew what I was doing, obviously helping people overcome insomnia. And he introduced me to some other people. And I was just there enjoying myself. I wasn't even at a networking event. And then he ended up introducing me to a friend. And that friend turned out to be one of my best clients so far, because I greeted him with a smile. I had a conversation. And he actually heard about what I did from a friend. So don't think about building a profile just with the, building a website and having a show reel, someone mentioned earlier, but start with the human relationships. And again, the relationships were mentioned before. A lot of my speaking gigs that I got at the beginning were through those relationships, because people gave me a chance because they knew me personally. So I don't know where you're at with your speaking business, but if you're just beginning or you're at the first sort of 6 months of your speaker business, you'll be surprised how many people will be willing to help you because you're just a really nice person and you ask. So the other part is online. So how I really been able to get a lot of corporate clients and corporate speaking engagements is building my profile online. And sometimes that takes a bit of more confidence, just like Kelly talked about at the beginning, just really going for it. And you can go for it even if before you believe in it. Because once you start building an online profile, it really starts to gain momentum. So what I've chosen to do is build a profile on LinkedIn, because I really wanted to work with corporate clients. And the minimum room I wanted to speak to was about 50 people in the room. So I started building the online profile. But building an online profile isn't just about how many Facebook Lives you do, or perhaps how many LinkedIn posts that you comment on. It's getting involved in projects that will actually build your profile online. So an example of that was every year in March, it's World Sleep Day. So I had this crazy idea that I would go onto the streets and interview people because I thought it would be a great way for me to put together a documentary. So I've got Dan, who's videoing the event today, and we got out to the streets. And just like Kelly mentioned, it's not an easy thing to do. It was nerve-wracking. But you know what? We did it. And it was a great success. And because the World Sleep Society promotes the event, I actually submitted my documentary, and it got submitted. So I'm now worldwide recognized as somebody who promotes healthy sleep. And when you look at their website, under the UK, because my name starts with B, as in Beatrix, I'm on the top of the list. So it worked really well. But get involved in projects that actually really complement what you do. Because it wasn't a lot of money to get that documentary sorted out and done, but it actually made a massive difference in how I built my profile since then. And that's just since been March. And the other thing as well with LinkedIn, for example, is creating content that will relate to the audiences that you want to reach. So in my scenario, again, corporate clients and reaching HR professionals, because they're going to be the ones who have the budgets to spend on me to come in and do a workshop for their employees, for example. So create content that will relate, that will basically help you to get in touch with those people and say, hey, I think this would be useful for you. So when you start helping them, when the time comes and they have some budget to spend, guess who they will be ringing? It's going to be you. So it's a combination on online and offline building relationships as well. And this is one of the ways that I actually got one of my biggest corporate clients. So far, they have booked me for 4 talks, entire corporate days across the UK. They have 35,000 employees, and my details and the recording of the event has gone onto their intranet. That's a stamp that you can also put onto any company that you might be speaking for, if that's what you want to do. But this client came from me posting a 1-minute professional recorded video. 1 minute, addressing HR professionals. So these are the 2 ways that I've built my profile. But I think when we look at the wheel that you've seen before, it's getting the other parts as well. Because if I didn't have a good brand message, if I couldn't communicate, and if I couldn't deliver a talk at that level, just like Anik mentioned before, I wouldn't have gotten paid that much. But you can start somewhere. Start building. Start recording your talks. Start reaching out to people. Ask. Say hello. Smile. And build those relationships, because they will really help you to build the profile that you want to build. And the reason I chose this slide, because I think it really portrays the personal brand and the company brand that I managed to build. So I have my own methodology, which is the Sleep Deep method. And often I get fined through that now. But I am the person who delivers it. So I'm actually now starting to build 2 different profiles, which is a bit crazy because last year I had none of it. And now it's two different things. It's got basically both of them has the life of its own now. But don't underestimate how building a solid profile can really, really help you to take either your business or your personal brand to a whole new level. And the other thing I want to talk about is patience and time. And we talked about babies before. Because it takes time. It takes effort. It takes practicing, practicing, and practicing, which is why Speaker Express has helped so many of us who are now either longer-term member or recently joined. I'm sure you can all agree. It's being in an environment that can really help you to fine-tune, practice, and get the message out, because even today's event is recorded. So have the patience and put the time in, because there are no shortcuts. This is what I found anyway. So let's go back to the first question. So where do you want to be in a year's time? Thank you very much. Oh, other way.
It's fine. So you got it. Ladies and gentlemen, Beatrix! Oh, come on, it's Beatrix! So, let me get this right. It takes time and patience to make babies? Is that what you're saying? Excellent. So, before we move to the next part, let's have some challenges. What are we picking up? We've done the wheel now. We've done the speaker method. What are the things that stick in mind? Let's have some shout-outs. Besides nights in Las Vegas, what else sticks out to us?
Get out there.
Get out there. Just get done. We have a member, Lara. She's one of our earlier members, and she came up with a phrase that we've now adopted. Start before you're ready. Yeah, might want to write that down. Start before you're ready. When I've got my signature, when I'm confident, when I've got this, when I can sell. Never going to happen. Yeah? Start before you're ready. Get out there. What else?
I love that phrase Bitch has just used of how do you want people to feel after you speak?
Yeah.
Because that gives that really nice focus to what do they get from it and what's that message?
Absolutely. How do you want people to feel? What else? It's okay to mess up. Yes, my first book was called It's Your Right to Be Wrong. And it's true. It's okay. You learn by messing up. You learn by getting it wrong and by getting up and going again and again and again. Think of the first time you did anything. Was it perfect? Did you get it right? Someone's going to say yes. I know someone always goes, yeah, right? Besides that person that always gets everything right first time, most of us didn't, yeah? Think about that. It's the same. You get up, you learn bit by bit by bit by bit. I listened to a cyclist, a professional cyclist, but I can't remember his name, but he's won like loads of awards. And he said, you know what? Maybe you know who it is, because maybe you said it. Is it you? That when you cycle, you just cycle faster. It never gets easier the more you do it. Did you say that? No. Yeah. And that's the thing with speaking. You know, you just learn to cycle faster, but it never gets easier. And the same with speaking. You just have to keep doing it, and then you up your game, and then you master 50, you go to 100, you go to 1,000, and there's another level of confidence to go with that. We're always learning, we're always evolving. So I think, are we going to hear from Susan? Oh, yes. We've saved Susan for last. So Susan has been with us for a couple of years now, because Susan joined on a 6-month program. And then she came along again and did what we call the next level, which is people actually building a business from it. And I will let Susan Madison herself tell you all about it. But ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Susan. Woo!
Good evening, everybody. Screw it, let's do it.
All right.
No. That's what I said to my shiny new friend that I'd picked up a couple of months before. We'd said that to each other. And what we had decided to do was start a business. So this was actually in early June, and we started witechrev.com. It's basically Women of the Technical Revolution. It was the only domain name we could get, the .com, .org, and all the social media handles. Progress over perfection. And since that moment in June, we've had 3 successful events where we've had 100% growth of our meetup membership. Every meetup, the audience has increased by at least 25%. So in July, we had 30-ish. In August, we had 60-ish. And September last week, we had 80-ish turn up. Now, these are tech meetups. And it's a well-known fact that women are very underrepresented in tech. In fact, when you look at the past year, if you look at all the prestigious blockchain crypto events and conferences, out of the 88 keynote speakers, there was 3 women. It's amazing. So, but at our meetups and events, we have only female speakers. And our audience is gender balanced, which for a blockchain crypto meetup is unheard of. It's usually like sausage party when you turn up. So now what is really, really cool, so we had these successful meetups, which is awesome. But after the second meetup, we actually secured a sponsor. So he's checking us a couple of ether, which equates to about 400, 500 quid, depending. And it pays for camera Dan to professionally film it. Yummy platters of food and free-flowing Prosecco. That's what we had at our last meetup. When have you ever had free-flowing Prosecco at an event? It's unheard of. And as well as that, we just secured another sponsorship. So me and my business partner, Natalie, we've got exclusive membership to the Curtin Soho Trendy Club. And we also get 50% off for our members in our meetup group. Now, why am I sharing all of this with you? So this is 3 months we've managed to make this happen. We both have full-time jobs, and in between every event, one of us has been traveling on business or holiday. And it's this. We're both professional speakers, seasoned speakers. In fact, that's how I met Natalie, my business partner. I was at a blockchain IoT meetup back in April. And guess what? There was 2 women there. Me and Natalie. And what was really weird was that when we actually both worked out, we're like, oh, right, I'll see you in a bit. I'm about to speak. And we're like, oh, you're speaking. This is really strange. So we hit it off, and the rest is history. So when you pull all of this together, you have your brand message, you have a talk, you can make it in 30 seconds, 1 minute, 3 minute, whatever. If I can summarize, all of that makes you a professional. And it also makes you magnetic. And when you are magnetic and professional, you can get what you want really fast. Yeah? So if I were to give you any advice for any of the speakers in the room or people who are growing their businesses through speaking, it's to invest in yourself. Do what it takes, do the work, do this to get you to that next level of speaking. And be a professional, be magnetic, and just say yes. Say yes and show up. And make those mistakes. Make those interesting mistakes, those amazing mistakes, glorious, fantastic mistakes. And get out of your heads and get on to the stages so that when you leave this world, you've left it a little bit more of an interesting place. Thank you.
Cool. So who feels inspired by tonight? Oh, you were going to clap. I like that. You can clap if you want. Yay! Cool.